Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Friday 15. So what is Friday 15, you ask? Every Friday at 12 p.m. Central Time, we go ahead, we take 15, potentially 20 minutes to answer your questions about the travel industry that you have all submitted on our website. So thank you so much. If you have questions, more questions you want to ask, if you're new and you've never asked a question before, please feel free to watch past episodes, get an idea of the questions, or submit your question at hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15. So again, that's hostagencyreviews.com/Friday15. If you can't find it, feel free to email us directly as well, and we will add it to the list of questions that we ask our incredible special guests that come on, because it's such a fun way to end the week. So this week, we are bringing back our wonderful friend and CEO of Travel Industry Solutions, Sheila. And maybe you recently saw in the news this week that Travel Industry Solutions has launched their fraud prevention tool for travel agencies. So in the comments, look out because we're going to link to that article. So if you're interested to learn more, please do. And thank you so much, Sheila, for joining us again. We have some fantastic questions. Are you ready to jump right in?
Yeah, well, I always love being here.
Yeah, we love having you here because we get to ask you some of the more technical questions that the advisors ask us. So we love that. And I'm so excited to jump into the first one. I definitely have some thoughts on the first one too, because I'm an organizational freak. So I love this kind of stuff. So the first question is a Travel Advisor Anonymous is asking, I absolutely love working with clients and planning trips. But when it comes to the back end of running my business, things like systems, organization, and workflows, I feel like I'm constantly playing catch up. What kinds of processes or tools should I be thinking about to stay on top of things and actually free up some of my time to do the things I love?
Oh, I love this question because if you've ever heard me talk, you always hear me say, time is money, guys. Every click you make, all the back and forth that you have with your clients, every little action that you take inside of your business costs you time and money. And what we really want to do is help you to focus on your money making activities and automate as much as you can behind the scenes. And I know when you're new as an advisor, it's really hard to understand what tools you should invest in first, which ones are good, which ones aren't good, what's going to help me create efficiency inside of my business. Actually, I was just on a panel at the ASTA conference with some great folks where we talked a lot about this. So first and foremost, I think automation is absolutely key. And there are a lot of great platforms out there that will help you to automate your business, whether it's Travefy or Turn or Trace or VCRM or whomever it is. There are lots of great platforms that will allow you to automate all of the communication with your customers once they book travel with you. So automation is key. And so you need to decide what features you want outside of the automation piece. But backing up a step, I think it's really important for you to set expectations very early in the process.
Yes.
Because that in itself is going to help you minimize a lot of the back and forth that you have with your customers, and then the automation of the booking workflows or the booking communication is the next step to it. So what do I mean by that? In TIS, probably our most popular download is what I call a planning and process checklist. So what I do as an advisor, I send that to my prospect after I've met with them. And it basically says, how I work. Step 1, you'll pay my fee. Step 2, we're going to have a planning call. Step 3, I'm going to create your itinerary. Step 4, you're going to submit your changes. Step 5, 6, 7, 8. And so I lay out the process to begin with. So that's going to help you to free up a lot of your time. Step 2 is to get, whether you use like a chat GPT or you purchase email workflows through many of the great providers inside of the industry or through TIS, because we also have email workflows, is set up your automations. I don't believe that you need a million different email automations. I built my agency to unheard of success with 3 sequences: contemporary cruise, or what we would categorize as like your Royal Caribbeans, your NCLs. So I have an entire workflow series for that. And then I have one for luxury and premium cruises, your Regent Seven Seas, your Oceana. Those sequences require a few additional inputs for you based on time-sensitive dates. And then I have one for land. And so I have 3 primary sequences that I use inside of my business. And so using an automation tool and plugging those in really helps. And then also remember, I'm being really long-winded, but you don't have to tackle all of this at once. Do it in bite-sized chunks. If you're using TIS, we actually already have share links, so you can import it into your CRM instantaneously and make a few little modifications.
Can you elaborate quickly on this? What is a sequence for those in our audience who've never used that before with their email automations? What does a sequence mean?
Yeah, so we have different sequences, but let's just focus on the booking sequence. So the booking sequence would start with your booking confirmation once they've made deposit. And so inside of our booking confirmation that we provide in TIS, we have, your booking is confirmed. This is the amount that was placed on the booking. Here's your final payment amount. Here's the final due date. Here are the next steps that you're going to take or that we will take and notify you about. Then there's additional reminders: travel insurance, entry and exit requirements. What are your responsibilities? How's documentation going to be handled? And oh, by the way, here's another link to my terms and conditions. So then it would be followed up with a 7 days later, it's going to be an additional travel insurance reminder. Ours is a little bit different. And then we have sequences that occur automatically throughout the process: dining reservations, tour reservations, spa reservations, different final payment sequences. So we're going to automate all of these steps inside of our CRM so that you don't have to remember to send these automations out or these emails out to your customer. And then, of course, you can also create task lists that remind you to check back in on a particular booking at particular intervals. So that's what I mean by an automation. The same thing can be done when you send an initial proposal to a client. So you can write that first one inside of your email client, and then you can set up a series of follow-up emails if you don't hear back from the client on the proposal that you sent over to them. Same thing for birthday reminders, holiday reminders, things of that nature.
Yep, absolutely. I love using sequences. So when a specific activity happens or a certain timeline is hit, an email is automatically sent. I am all about love setting up a good sequence. So I couldn't agree with you more. I literally, my points that I had put down for this question pretty much align exactly with what you said. Automate where you can to begin. So like even just calendar booking links or email templates, automated payment reminders, just automating what you can. I also say don't overthink it as well. There are so many simple things that you can automate from the beginning. Right? When you think about going back and forth in emails to figure out a time to have a call with your client or something like that versus here's the link, choose a time that's open in my calendar. right?
So I do that with my pre-departure email. So I do have a pre-departure email that I send to every client. It's 2 weeks prior to departure with a link to my calendar to schedule time with me to go over all of their documents. And that in itself is another huge time saver, because every time you have to email a client or go back and forth with them throughout the process, you are being taken away from your money making activities. So just having a calendar link is a huge deal. And also, it's going to save you from those late night calls.
Oh, absolutely.
Your client is traveling.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things too. We always get distracted by our emails, right? So I even, like in my calendar, I even set blocks of time to do tasks so that I'm not constantly going into my emails to take a look at them and jumping in and out. And I think one of the most important things, Sheila, that you said that was like, I bolded this point for myself was you don't need to do everything at once.
No.
Right. And you shouldn't, because you'll become very flustered. Also, I would say as well, don't be afraid to make a mistake. You may use a platform that you think that will be helpful for you, and it's not, and that's okay. Right. Yeah. And then you make a switch. You're not going to get everything right away.
Oh,
and that's okay. Yeah.
How do you think I perfected all of the processes that we have now as part of TIS? Is I made mistakes along the way. I documented literally for 2 years. Yeah. I documented mistakes that other travel advisors were making, and I documented questions that I was getting from my customers throughout, my first couple of years. So I made a lot of adjustments to the way I communicated with my clients during that time frame. But there's a bunch of other tools too. I think Microsoft has Copilot, where it's an AI that it can sort through your emails and prioritize your emails for the day. There's a lot of AI tools out there that will help you in terms of your back office and creating efficiency and whatnot. I mean, you can create even marketing content calendars and leverage the tools that are available to you, particularly in the AI space right now.
Absolutely. And try things out. You don't know what's going to work, what's not going to work. I've used lots of different platforms, and certain things work and certain things I'm like, well, I'm not using that, or it's just doesn't work for me. And so I take a look at what else is out there. I will say, Sheila, you've mentioned a lot of the different travel agency software that's out there, which is great. We'll link to our profile page so that everyone who's listening, you can sort them by different technology types, depending on what it is that you're looking for your business and what processes you're looking to streamline. So we'll link that for you in the comments. But we're going to move on to the next question if you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right. So again, from Anonymous, as I've grown my business, I keep hearing that you should be using templates or contracts to protect yourself. But I'm not even sure where to start. Are there certain legal or operational documents that every advisor should have in place, no matter what stage they're at?
100%. And here's the deal. The court doesn't care if you're small potatoes or you only have one booking. It doesn't matter if you're booking friends and family. For anybody who knows me in this industry, they know one of the drivers of me creating TIS was because I had chargebacks from 2 friends. Personal friends, very deep relationships with personal friends. So everybody should have a terms and conditions agreement. They should have a travel insurance confirmation, not just a waiver that says no, but all of your clients should check the yes or the no box. So those are the 2 key agreements that every advisor really needs to have inside of their business. If you do charge planning fees, I encourage you to have a planning fee agreement, which would also link to your full terms and conditions. And then, of course, lastly, if you have a website and you have cookies enabled, you're doing any sort of collection of information via forms on your website, or you're doing advertising, you are required by law to have a privacy policy. You can get fined if you don't have, at bare minimum, a privacy policy, but you should also have a terms of use, not to be confused with your terms and conditions, your client terms and conditions, the terms of use is the rules of the road for your website. So what are the rules for people engaging with your website? So those are the key agreements every advisor needs from the get-go. So inside of our industry, we have 4 states with seller of travel law. So you need to comply with disclosures. You'll want to have some of those disclosures inside of your terms and conditions. You'll want to have a little disclosure on your website as well. In TIS, we have all of our agreements are attorney prepared. So my partner is an attorney, but we engage lawyers who are specialists in various areas of law. We monitor laws. We keep the agreements updated. Don't forget, these are not one and done, guys. I can't tell you how many updates we made last year. We've already done our annual review this year. You don't just go buy an agreement and then go, oh, I'm covered for the next 10 years. Doesn't work that way. This is a living, breathing industry. So make sure that wherever you turn to, whether it's TIS or, another provider inside of our industry, that you are getting those updates along the way, and they're telling you what to do with them. What do I do now that it's updated? That's another component that's missing. And not only are you just getting here, insert these 3 sentences, you're having a comprehensive review of the entire document. It needs to be a comprehensive review and plugged into the document for you, not left to you to decide, have I, inserted in the right place? Is it going to conflict with any other provisions that I have? That's a no-go.
Yeah, absolutely. And this, to me, this is, I would almost say, like a priority 1 within your business for sure. We'll link to, we have an article that talks about terms and conditions, things that you need to consider, waivers, disclaimers to protect your agency. And so we'll link to that article. We also have an article where we have a whole list of travel lawyers and templates from them as well. This is just to get you started. Definitely, I think that we definitely need to be looking at platforms to help you out, speaking with a lawyer, but making sure that you are protected. This is your business. So make sure that you protect it from day 1 or probably even earlier.
And the other thing too, is if you're doing groups or destination weddings, do not rely on your general terms and conditions if you already have them to cover you. We just launched the industry first real group travel terms and conditions and wedding contract bundle. So we have the contract between the agency and the wedding couple, and then the contract for the travelers or the guests, the wedding guests. So make sure that you're not just utilizing your general like leisure travel terms and conditions, because there are very, very specific provisions that are included in those types of documents. And there's a lot more advisors that are moving into the group space. So just bear that in mind.
Well, it's interesting because we actually talked about that on the last Friday 15 with vacation planners and Jen Lee, because we're talking about groups in general and talked about how the contracts between you as the advisor and your agency and the supplier versus you with your client are 2 different contracts. But also that they always differ from the general terms and conditions, both of the supplier and of your agency. So to be very aware of that. So I love that we're following up with this, because that was definitely a big part of the conversation on our Friday 15 last week too.
Oh, good.
Yeah. All right.
And Jen is so amazing. She's so smart. I just love her.
Oh, feeling the exact same way for sure. I had such a fun time. All right. I know we're over time, but I got to ask the last question because I think it's a really good one and an incredibly important one. So with so many scams and fraud risks out there, especially things like fake client inquiries or payment fraud, what are some red flags I should be watching out for, and what are steps I can take to protect myself and my business?
Oh, well, there's some real obvious red flags, which is last minute bookings. So those are usually tied to stolen cards or synthetic identity. That is the most obvious one. I just got off of a call this morning with a partner of ours in the fraud space, and other red flags. Googling the address. Does the address match, or does this person really exist? If you have a fraud flag, picking up the phone and calling the phone number that the person provided to you. Where are they located? That's another big thing. Are they traveling on the trip as well? We see that come through a lot. Like, I want to book, 5 rooms at XYZ and resort. But that person who is paying is actually not on the booking. Why?
No.
A thing that you can do is say, I'd like to speak with some other travelers who are, in this trip. Can you connect me with them? So there's a ton of last minute stuff. I would say the biggest challenge that we see right now is with AI and synthetic identities. It's growing. It's not going to stop. Booking.com had a 500 to 900% increase last year in attempted fraudulent transactions. That is huge. And it's only going to grow worse. Oh, are they paying with like a virtual card? There are some things that you're just not going to know up front, if it's a gift card, a virtual card, a stolen card, which is why we just introduced the very first fraud detection tool at the credit card vault level. So when you go to send your client the terms and conditions to sign via our platform and authorize their payment, when they put in their credit card information, we scan it in real time and deliver back a fraud score to you. We tell you what the score is, what it means, and what are the next steps that you need to take before you make payment to the supplier. Because I was on another call this morning with somebody from ALG, and I'm doing a panel with them next week. And what advisors don't understand is that they are now being placed on the hook to pay back the suppliers for the full vacation amount.
Oh yeah. That was a big topic.
And we talked about this at PATH.
Yep. I was going to say this is a big topic of conversation last week with us when we were, hopefully some of you were in Salt Lake City with us at ASTA, and we were also at PATH, but this was a huge topic of conversation at that conference. Which is why I know we're a Friday 15 and I know we're almost at 23 minutes, but I couldn't miss out on this question. It's so worth going over time.
Well, yeah. I mean, is the traveler on does the card coincide with the travelers on the trip?
Yep.
What is the value? Where are they located? How close into travel are they? And last minute travel is no longer just the flag, because they've become more sophisticated in creating real identities to match with the stolen credit card. And so that's a huge, it's a huge issue that is exacerbating the problem and is allowing them to book further out. So there are a number of things that are happening inside of the space.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing all of that. We're going to, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to link to the fraud detection tool article so that you can read about what Sheila and her team have developed, and if that's a great fit for you and your business. We do also have Steph's wonderful sister, Bridget, wrote a beautiful article on fraud prevention resources. We've actually embedded the webinar we did on credit card fraud directly into the article. So we'll link that as well, just for more information. Yep.
One other thing though, when I was at ASTA, I did meet, I had dinner with Jeff Ment, who's one of the lawyers in the space that we work with. And so I committed to him, and it would be applicable to him or anybody else out there, that we would, if you're using solutions from other providers inside of the industry and not TIS, I made a commitment that we would create a product that would allow advisors to use contracts created by other providers inside of the industry, inside of our system, to take advantage of the vault and the fraud tool. So you'll be able to, at some point this year, we will have a product where you can sign up and you can use us like a DocuSign and leverage the vault and the fraud using others' agreements.
Oh, that's fantastic, which is perfect timing for us to actually link to your profile. So we'll link to the profile. We'll also link to your website directly. So please take a look in the comments to everyone who's listening. Please go check out Travel Industry Solutions. Incredibly important. See what they're doing. Reach out directly and ask them questions. You can tell Sheila is fantastic with all of the questions. So please ask her. She knows what she's talking about. And this is definitely an incredibly important conversation that we're having today, and solutions that Sheila's finding and that others in the industry are also helping find as well. So with that, I'm going to close this off with just to let you all know that we have a few more Friday 15s coming up in the month of June. And I say a few more, it's every Friday. So starting off here with Travel Industry Solutions, next Friday, June 13th, we will have cruise planners joining us. On the 20th, we're going to have Lavarte Travel back. And then we're going to have Dugan's Travel on June 27th to close out the month. So please keep joining us. If you have questions, please submit them. We love answering them. And thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much, Sheila, for taking the time. This was fantastic. And we cannot thank you enough for coming back and joining us again.
Thank you so much, Shayna. Have a great rest of your month. Have a great weekend. All of the good stuff, the good feels.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.